Alright, welcome back. Another video here. The intro will be this new playlist I've curated over the past few months now. We got a nice little icon there. Came up with that myself, of course. Gotta go above and beyond when it comes to playlist images. The majority of my close friends do have a solid respect for that craft. So this one here is featuring Vanilla Ice in an interview where he essentially denies sampling from Queen and Bowie's hit Under Pressure. So I took the quote. He says we sampled it from him, but it's not the same bass line. And he essentially like added a note or something. And then you should watch the interview. You can see how he's pretty much smirking, and he knows that he sampled, and he attempts to deny it, or just in trying to make excuses. It's a good laugh. The interview is the fact that he's denying it is not, just come and fess up. But this is a moderate collection of songs I've noticed that feature sampling from other songs, and I actually made it when I heard this one by Madonna from 05, and it's sampled from ABBA's, 79, yeah, it's almost 80s. And I recognized the riff, and I was like, oh, I can name a solid 3 or 4 songs now that I know that sample, so I might as well make a playlist to keep track of them. So I got a total of 6 songs, and then their counterparts that they've sampled from. So One Direction's Best Song Ever, sampled from The Who's Bob O'Reilly. Maroon 5, song Memories, sampled from Canon in D by Pachelbel. Or however you say his name, I'm pretty sure that's how you say his name. Nevertheless, I'll be adding to it as we progress, and this is going to be confirmed, samples or stuff that's pretty difficult to look at it and say, oh yeah, they didn't sample. It's going to be kind of clear-cut giveaway. The other playlist that I have for stuff that's more questionable is this similarity mix, but that's more subjective and definitely not necessarily sampling, especially as it relates to it in a legal and a royalty sense. But that's enough intro for now. I just felt I'd share that because it's a recent addition. I've been working on it, and then about a week or two ago I made it public and added that image. So I thought I'd show it off. Now for today's actual content, we're going to be looking at a user review, just because these are highly requested from the 2 people that watch me. As much as I'd like to sit here and talk about other stuff, you got to make sure you keep the fans happy also, because user reviews are somewhat entertaining. It just gets boring when I'm doing them review after review after review. That's why I like to spread it out with some other stuff. This started out being a series where I go in and I review users and share my thoughts on different people, and over the months, at least from when the series first started, my mindset has shifted a little bit, enough to the point where I recognize there's more than just looking at other people's tastes and stuff, which is something I still do. It's just not as frequent as I used to do. There's other stuff I'd like to share my thoughts on, especially given the new sampling mix, and I got a couple good ones here, Life mix and Lyric mix, that would be worth discussing in future videos. But for the time being, we are going to look at user review. This individual name is Madison Bonillo. I think that's how you say her last name. I've never met her in person, believe it or not. And the way I found her was actually through our good friend Darren down here. I noticed that at one point, I think she was following Madison, and Madison had followed her back. And this was sometime in October, perhaps. And of course, this was back when the series was starting, and I was more into observing other people and whatnot. So I did make some observations. I found one of the old photos I recorded just suggesting that they do know each other on a personal level. And this is just one example of how they were listening to the exact same song from the same album, just 2 hours apart. So I recorded a photo of that. This was taken November 18th of 2019. So about a month or so after I first noticed they were quote unquote friends or knew each other in real life. And so, I kind of just observed. I didn't watch Madison intently, not by any means. It's just I noticed, oh, hey, it seems like they know each other. So with that in mind, we can start taking a look at her playlists here. She does have little emojis and stuff in the titles. I can see a couple of custom images. Over here, lots of what's emoticons? That's the name. We're living in 2020. Emojis is the new thing. Emoticons are unheard of. But she's changed these names. I will say that now. She used to have a different format with like a little star and all of that. So we're going to go through and sort of analyze, and I'll share the thoughts that I've observed because I've been watching her off and on for a solid 7-8 months now. So this is Lil Vanilla's playlist. I assume this is for either her younger siblings, younger cousins, maybe some kids she babysits, but she's gone and modified stuff in here. There used to be a lot of Phineas and Ferb and some other junk like that. And as you can see, it's Lindsey Sterling, inherently kid-friendly. I mean, she's a violinist, but we have movie soundtracks, pentatonics, Christmas, another Disney soundtrack right there. So indicative of a kid-friendly playlist. What I play when with my friends. This one formerly used to be called, Fwends, spelled Fwends, spelled like that. I should change the name within the past week. And it's, I believe, songs that her friends have recommended she listened to. So, I mean, the majority of it is modern stuff, but it seems like a general collection of music she likes, her friends like English, etc. Just stuff that she would play at some sort of event or get together. This one is clearly going to be some sort of depression playlist, and I can confirm that from my memory. You got Eilish, Key, depressive artist. I would expect there's Ash in here as well. Yep. Any Conan? I don't know. Interesting. So I will comment on her tastes aren't necessarily conformist or modern. In some regards they are, but once we get to her personal favorites playlist, you will see she does have some exquisite / exotic tastes, more so than you would expect from the average modern teenager. But this is Sam Smith, John Legend, some sappy Ed Sheeran songs, Harry Styles, Falling. Does it get much more depressed than that? Back to the Past, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So pretty much anything before 90s. What did she have in here from 90s? What, like, let's see, Backstreet. Huh. Cher is what, she's 80s? Okay. Late 90s. But yeah, so she does have a taste for oldies here, as you can tell by the 145 songs in the playlist. While I have it on my mind, what was the last song she was listening to? Kind of forgot to take a note of that. From All Out 10's Drag Me Down by One Direction. So, 10's, I mean, definitely not the best decade, but EDM became mainstream. It's true. hip hop started to rule the world. That's also true. It's unfortunate, but it's just it's just music. Honestly, it's just a progression of stuff. Back in '50s, actually back in the '40s, you had big band. Going into '50s, birth of rock and roll. '60s, you still had like I just train of thought derailed. No, you had some girl groups and stuff like Beatles, but still building off of the rock and roll. As you go into '70s, quality gets a bit better. Harder rock, birth of bands like Van Halen. Queen was popular during the time. They do have some quote unquote harder rock hits into '80s. Mass production of synthesizer, and I can go on and on with this. Straight. The point being that music changes, and I may not necessarily agree with the direction that it's going in, but I literally can't do anything to combat that. It's just it is what it is. You either roll with it or you kill yourself because you don't like the direction that it's going and you can't do anything about it, or just stop listening to music altogether. Both of those are undesirable alternatives. I'd rather just continue listening to the older music that I listen to because we're able to do that. I see no reason to freak out about the direction that music is going. So that's a whole nother rant. I should get back on topic here. We're looking at WU, some sort of weeb anime. I forget what the exact description for this was, but I think it's a collection of modern songs. She hasn't added to it for over a year, so I would assume she doesn't listen to it. It's not frequently, not from my observations. Another Vanilla's, so this playlist full of song that my family taught me and is the reason for my good music taste. Sorry, not sorry. Hard emoticon. It's a very aggressive description there. Assertive. Etc. So we got a lot of foreign artists here. I want to say what is this Taint Girl soundtrack? What the heck am I looking at? Okay, Junshed I've heard of. New York, I think I've seen. Okay, maybe not then. Bowling Soup, yeah, that's probably like, okay, Billy Joel, I recognize that, but the rest of these are very exotic. Okay, now we're coming into some familiar territory. Actually, I just listened to this whole album. It's reasonable. Off topic again though. My usual rotations. This is her personal favorites playlist. The description used to be something about the songs that make me buckle up. It's very diverse. Something along those lines. I'd say this is inherently generic, not necessarily diverse, at least. Brown Queen, Sarah, I can't pronounce her last name. I'm not even going to try. But she does musicals and covers and stuff like that. She was doing Phantom of the Opera when they did it. Oh, sorry, not Phantom. I'm sorry, Jesus Christ Superstar. I'm confusing Lloyd Webber Productions, but they did it live on, was it NBC? Yeah. So she's into musicals. Clearly, if you were to go to the Broadway playlist here, you can see she has a bunch of musical. Hamilton, In the Heights, Dear Evan Hansen, Book of Mormon, all in that rent. Quite a lengthy playlist too. Added to it recently. Anyways, it is fairly diverse. Let's see. I remember something stood out to me. If I can find it here. Oh, maybe it's not in here. All right, never mind then. I'll take that back. But I've seen her listen to Stacy's mom in the past. And there's two versions of the song. One, okay, hello, by Fountains of Wayne. Second one by Bowling for Soup. Fountains of Wayne is the original version. Came out, what, 03? The Bowling for Soup one came out in 11. Bowling for Soup one is superior, in my opinion. Most people listen to the Bowling for Soup one. If you look at it, I believe it does have more hits. 39 million plays. Well, maybe not. Okay, well, I've heard the Bowling for Soup one played more often. And it's also superior. You know, this one, it's not bad. It's just Bowling for Soup. They incorporate more guitar, and their vocals are a little bit better. In that regard, I'm still surprised how this has more plays. We're going to be honest. This is pretty much a one-hit wonder. That's really interesting. Maybe on YouTube or something it'll have more hits, because I'm pretty confident that the Bowling for Soup one is more popular. But then again, I could be wrong. Yeah, definitely. That's a possibility. Another one here, Billie Jean. She doesn't have the Michael Jackson version. She has some sort of cover band version. That's what it looks like. Same thing for Creep, originally by Radiohead. This one is a cover from whatever band that is. Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Another cover. So she does have, a fairly diverse taste. Another cover right here. I haven't even heard of these bands. Lots of Sarah, whatever her last name is. Okay, well, that one's generic. How many hits does this have on Spotify? 107. I'd expect more, I'm going to be honest. I've heard it played a lot. Maybe Spotify is just, their algorithms are screwed up or something. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, because that's the case a lot with Spotify. Yunlin, early 2000s stuff. So probably what she, maybe not necessarily grew up with. What if she's 18, 19? She could have grown up with it, I suppose, but usually when I consider music someone grew up with, it would be when they're 9, 10, especially going into their junior high years. And then high school, somewhat as well, but that's when you have most of the songs have an influence. Growing up with, I'd say this is a little bit before her time. Some of it. Yeah, if she was born in 2000, she wasn't listening to this in 2004. I mean, if you're a 4-year-old, you can't really, go on to Spotify or onto the MP3 player. And I mean, you have a sense of what you want to listen to, but it's still a bit of a stretch. Your mind is very young. Bel Canto, she's in choir with Darren, so this will lead me into the second half of the story. Once I reestablished contact, communication with Darren, it was confirmed that Madison is her friend and, in fact, her best friend, and that they were in South Bay Children's Choir together, and they both bridged into El Camino Chorale, and they hang out a lot at El Camino campus and do a lot of activities together outside of school. So, you have to do what you will with that information, but that's what I have thus far discovered and essentially confirmed through my own observation to be accurate and correct. So, obviously, she'll have a choir playlist because you gotta learn the choir songs. Country playlist, clearly. Dolly Parton, good for you. Not many people have a respect for original country. It's all modern country and country rock, which, I mean, the guitar and stuff is decent, but I have a respect for older country. The stuff like, Dolly Parton, Onion, don't really know who else, but Kenny Rogers. And full other artists that, go back to the original roots. I don't know enough about that genre to continue discussing. Jingle Jangle actually has some weird songs in here. I remember watching this during Christmas. She actually added to it in May. I did not notice this. This is Lady A. I see 3 dudes, not a lady. It's like, not 3 dudes, I'm sorry, 2 dudes and 1 girl. If you're gonna call it Lady A, it should at least be like a solo artist, not a trio. Then it's like Group A or something. Unless they all identify as females, in which case it should be Ladies A. Either way, they're wrong. Bublé, of course. So yeah, she goes for some of the weirder songs here, the covers and all that. And it's Christmas. I despise this song so much. Especially the Taylor Swift version. Now it's in my head. What? This is okay. I'm not doing that anymore. Next playlist. Heart. Let me see what we're looking at here. I don't recall the description for this. It looks like some sort of indie, quote unquote, type of deal. I forget the exact genre here. It's not pure indie. It's more of a modern, mellow electronic sort of deal, because I see Tame Impala in 1975, Girl in Red, Cave Town. So a modified version of indie is what it looks like. Broadway, we already looked at that. Decent image there. I like the colors. Some sort of fairy here. Looks very similar to that other playlist, huh? See a bunch of indie songs here. Peach Pit, Dayglow, Lana Del Rey. Yeah, she's similar to Eilish, not straight up full depressed, but from the songs I've listened to, they have a similar sound, almost like a better version of Eilish, quote unquote, in the sense that she's not as depressed or as immersed in that side of music. Emo Alien. I remember looking at this one. It's kind of weird. So we got a whole bunch of MCR, Fall Out Boy, Green Day, Panic at the Disco, all of that. You could essentially name these Blink-182. And then this one by Paramore can qualify as emo, I suppose. Paramore isn't inherently emo though. Lithium. That's just that's not emo. Cause see, the way I see emo is essentially crappier version of goth. Like they're trying to be cool, but the goth movement is kind of old, so this is their revival of it, and it sucks. I wouldn't even go as far as to call Nirvana inherently goth, though. That's grunge. It's just typical teenage 90s rebellion. Goth and punk are different categories. That being said, though, these 2 songs are decent. So, quality taste in that regard. Fall Out Boy, I don't care a whole lot for them. They're not a trash band, but most of their stuff I don't go out of my way to listen to. Sugar, We're Going Down Swinging, or I think it's the Sugar, We're Going Down. That's probably the one I would actually play on a somewhat routine basis, but somewhat emphasis on the somewhat. And then here's the Alien part, I suppose, the 21 Pilots. Oh, there's Stacy's mom. Yeah, so she listens to the original as opposed to the 1985 version, and we're not going to have this discussion about which one is more popular because I don't even know at this point. But I think that's probably not my one critique, but one of my critiques about her taste. Just the 1985 version is superior. Or I'm sorry, Pulling for Soup version is superior. Bridging off of that, Pumped Up Kicks is another leading one. Lyrics for that are kind of dark, despite the upbeat sound. If you have taken a chance to observe that song, you would agree with me. So just a wake up playlist. So it looks like they got 21 Pilots' new single. A lot of concern. Oh, they have a live version. Nice. From outside? Did they just straight up go outside of their house and play it? I might have to check that out. It's kind of interesting. The only one I recognize is Sunday Best. I don't really recognize any of these other ones. Mindless, one of her most recent creations here. Once again, Pumped Up Kicks. These are indie bands from my knowledge. The other ones I don't really recognize. So I assume it's, judging by the image here, something she listens to while she's kind of just chilling in her room on her phone, or doesn't really feel like doing much, which, as far as laziness goes, I can get behind that sentiment. No argument from me. She's following a lot of people. We're not going to go through all this, but the majority of it is artists. If we go to actual profiles down here, we can see Darren. She follows her family members. I assume that these are a couple friends. Okay, what am I looking at here? Could you not? So that's current mood because she's obsessed with her boyfriend. Yeah, well, I mean, sure, putting that in your social media deal is one thing, but Sophie Soros, think you're funny or something. Putting it in your Spotify profile picture is a whole nother deal. Although, I guess I'm one to talk. But, that's just because I'm tired of seeing my face up there. Anyways, back to these idiots that she follows. So yeah, more family members. It's a lot of family members on Spotify. My brother isn't even on here. And who are her followers? Well, me, obviously. Family member. Only 2 of her family members follow her back. It's kind of cool. Cece Sullivan. Yeah, she put that on a while ago, that stay home garbage. I don't know what's up with these people. Like, you don't even have enough followers to justify that. I mean, it's not like people can comment on your profile anyways. And say, oh, good for you for putting that up there. It's not like they can like, your images or anything. Or they could follow you, sure, but that's about it. But I do like that about Spotify for the most part. It's not conformist as far as social media goes. You can't like post stuff and like stuff, which it's not a social media platform. Yeah, and if you could do that, that'd be dumb. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's some music services out there where you can do that and post stuff and whatever, which completely takes away from the purpose of it. Like in the Bible app, you can just straight up like add friends and like each other's verses that they highlight and make images and like that. And I understand the intention behind it, and some of that stuff is good, but it sort of drives away from the purpose of reading the Bible and stuff, because I can see how it'd be very tempting to focus more on how many likes you're going to get off of the verse image you create than actually getting content on the stuff you're reading. It's not something I've experienced personally, but I can just imagine because I've seen a couple of the friends I've added on it. They get a solid amount of likes, and I would imagine at some point it goes to their head. I mean, they've at least noticed it in some capacity. I'm just saying it's a possibility. Social media has its place in society. There's actually a good paper I read on this recently. I'll share it if someone wants to see it, or I can share the takeaway. But it has its place in society, but its place in society is kind of what's detrimented society. There's definitely pros for using it, but the cons are quite abundant, as I'm sure you would agree, or anyone would agree. Anyone reasonable would agree. The one thing I think I would maybe like to see on Spotify is some sort of messaging system. Not necessarily group messaging, but just where I can direct message someone. I don't know. Even then, I'm kind of skeptical. It's something I've toyed with, but I kind of like the more reserved, distanced version of it. Like, you can only see what other people are doing if you're on the desktop, and even then, it's not like they get a notification when I follow them. They get a notification when I'm online, when one of their friends is online. You see, if Spotify would add that would be a little too far, in my opinion. Right now, it's much more reserved and much more laid back, where you even have the option to straight up turn all this stuff off too. If you don't want to see the friend activity, you can turn it off like that. If you don't want people to see what you're doing on the friend activity, you can turn that off too. So I think those features are reasonable, but nothing else is social wise is necessarily appropriate. At least for the time being. The only other thing I'd like to see is some sort of modification to collaborative playlists where you can have a default user who can add to it and view it, and then you have a moderator who can remove songs, rearrange songs, maybe change the picture and the description, and then an admin or an owner who is the one who created the playlist. They can promote people to mod. They can have full control over the same thing the mods have, essentially. Moving songs, deleting songs, changing the description, all of that. The only difference is they can straight up delete the playlist and give other people moderator permissions. That's probably the one change I'd like to see the most on Spotify, at least right now. Just some more expansion on the collaborative playlists. But that's a whole other tangent. Once again, my conclusion for Madison here is her tastes are fairly unique. She sticks to, for the most part, the modern genres and songs of that nature. Recent, some electronic or indie, a bit of rap in some areas, hip hop. As we saw, emo and rock, as well as some sort of electronic style, such as 21 Pilots or even Surfaces, somewhat electronic. And then, of course, musicals, oldies, and choir songs have a place in her heart. So that's essentially my conclusion. I'm not going to say whether that's good or bad, because that's not my place to make that call at all. We saw a few Eilish songs and probably a couple Justin Bieber hits who were never, but we also saw some solid oldies, and even in her favorites playlist, it's not all generic songs. She actually has branched out and added the cover versions, or even some songs I don't even recognize, which I do respect that. Not necessarily conforming to what's mainstream and popular in that regard. So I think that's pretty neat. So once again, thank you for watching the user review here. Next video, we'll see what happens. I'm kind of wanting to elaborate on a couple of these mixes here, especially this one. Yeah, we could sit down for a while and just look at the lyrics of some of these songs. So we'll see. That would lead to some somewhat deep discussions. We get into some psychological concepts today. I don't know if you guys are ready for that. But yeah, stay tuned. Sometime in July, likely. Have a great day.